Now, the catch-up dance tells a piece of Ramayana story. The part of the story is that it's played in the fragment of goddess Shinta kidnapped by King Rahwana. In the circle of the catch-up dancers, there will be dancers who play the characters in the story, like Rama, Shinta, Rahwana, of course, Hanuman, and Sugriva. Sculptures of Rama and Shinta are common sight in Bali and are known for their depiction of the couple's great love. The Balinese Hindu community, to this day, still recite the Ramayana story at every important event in human life: birth, marriage, and death. As we stand here today, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrate not only a cultural masterpiece, but a living legacy that continues to enrich and unite us. Like Ambassador has told, a world heritage indeed. It is a treasure that connects the past and the present, reaching countries and cultures and leaving an indelible mark on our collective soul. May the Ramayana's teachings continue to inspire us all. Thank you very much.
I think we got a very good overview of multiple traditions of Ramayana in Indonesia. Given the length and breadth of Indonesia, it's quite natural that when the story would have traversed through the land of Indonesia, it would have certainly undergone many changes. And also, just one point before we listen to our speaker from India, it's very interesting that Mr. Silalahi mentioned about the concept of dharma, because sometimes the way the English translators have translated dharma equal to religion, which is actually complete misconception, where he actually mentioned correctly that dharma is basically a set of code, that how a person should lead his life. That's why if you find that there is a dharma of everything. So the material has its own dharma, like fluid has a dharma to flow, air has a dharma that it must rise, because, so thank you very much for bringing that concept, because other point that we have been saying, I think repeatedly, that Ramayana embodies many concepts which appeal to human. Love, you mentioned, loyalty, some of these very good values. And maybe that explains that why it got so readily accepted by such diverse societies, not only in this part of the world, but across many other geographies. So let's now listen to our scholar from India, Dr. Abira.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for for giving me the opportunity to invite me here for this presentation. And I would like to extend my gratitude to all the esteemed ambassadors and all the honorable guests, and also the delegates who are present here for this conference. Today I am going to discuss about the visual expressions which we see in Ramayana, and how Ramayana has acted like a traveling text from India to Southeast Asia and various parts of across South and Southeast Asia both. So I'm going to present, I'm going to share my screen and do a little presentation. So the title of this presentation says the visual expressions of Ramayana from the traveling text to icons. So I'm going to showcase the transformation, how it happened. I guess I'm audible to you all. So the aim and objective of this presentation, am I audible? Okay, so the aim and objective of this presentation is the visual expressions of the Ramayana, which traces the several dynamic the multiplicity of the Ram Katha and how it has been located as a narrative, not only through the oral tradition, but also from devotional icons, performances, painted manuscripts, miniature paintings, and folk and theatrical art. So by tracing this diversity of the Ramayana text in the visual art, I would attempt to showcase that how different cultures across Asia have adapted this tradition and how the manifestations of this art form or the text form has like emerged and how it got spread. So we all are aware like the role and contribution of India in the cross-cultural dissemination of Ramayana and many other Puranas and Sanskrit texts which are seen in the temples and art and architecture of Southeast Asia. So a little bit about the Valmiki Ramayana, because we have been talking about like the dissemination in Prambanan. Like I'm also going to talk about a little bit of Prambanan at the end. But the earliest compendium, which is the Valmiki Ramayana, is the most important one, and how the 7 books got transformed or it transpired into a form of a visual icon. So we see the story begins with with all these 7 khans, and we have these Aranya, Kishkinda, Sundar, Yudh. So when we see the miniature paintings in India, like whether they are built in, whether they were patronized by the Mewar kingdoms or whether they were made by the Guled and Kangra regions, they all have these, like the titles are there, that the Aranya like it contains of these several episodes which are depicted in the miniature painting. So like the patrons were also very much, they were aware like which texts out of the 7 they are going to promote. And mostly we see a lot of representation of the narrative which focuses these reputation of these forms of how Ravan got subjugated, and different even each representation of Ravan differs from one region to another. So this is how we also understand like the visual representations are changing according to the region as well. Then Ramayana as a Hindu epic, so we also have archaeological evidences in the recent past which have helped us to understand that this is not only an epic but it has an archaeological and a textual evidence too. And like the characters which we delve into, which we discuss during these presentations, they had a very deep cultural and ideological roots within the context of Pan-India. So these are the different versions of Ramayana which we see in the Indian context. These are the Ramayana, the Jain Ramayana, the Ramcharitmanas, the Buddha Ramayana, and all these texts are from like the Ramayana also differed in the regional context. As I said, like for example, the Kirtibas Ramayana is quite popular in Odisha. Then we have the Mithilavas, which is in Bihar. So each Ramayana also like it changed its course in different parts of India as well. And when it went to South and Southeast Asia, we have different names. So the previous scholars, they have already discussed how it went to Thailand, how it got so important in Java and Cambodia. So based on these different versions of Ramayana, which has a lot of like some similarities, some dissimilarities, they became important in different form of art forms and also performances. So Ramayana in India, from text icons to performance. So these are the 3 main visual expressions where we see Ramayana Ramayana developing from an early medieval phase or even from the ancient period to a later phase. And this is how it showcases the continuity of the tradition. So when we see the Ramayana text, like some of them I've taken examples from the National Museum collection. Since I work there as an assistant curator, so like from the digital database, I have picked up some material, some from Allahabad Museum as well. So we copies of the text also existed, and then they were disseminated to various parts. Then there is also a tradition of painted manuscripts. So the texts were also supported by illustrations. So these illustrations were some were directly connected with the text which was written at the corner, or it could be like a very different kind of, like it could be even discordant to the text which is there in the folio. And this kind of tradition appeared from the very early period when we see the Jain manuscripts. So the palm leaf Jain manuscripts and the Pal period Eastern Indian manuscript, they started this tradition, which continued in the high medieval era as well. And we see representations of Ramayana and Mahabharata in such formats. So even like when we see the first one, like this is from the Kashmir region, and the other one is from the Madhya Pradesh. So they have like the theme remains the same, but the representation as form of like the stylistic connotation changes from one region to another. Then this is an example of Ramcharitmanas, which we have from the author is Tulsidas, which we have from National Museum collection. So again we see like the representation of like where Hanuman is visiting Sita, and then all these adventures of Hanuman have been depicted. So it's not only that Ramayana became popular in Sanskrit text, but we also see that Ramayana became quite popular under the patronage of Akbar. And we find a lot of Persian representations of Ramayana as well. So the first copy of Persian Ramayana was commissioned by Akbar during 1580 to 1590, and later on his own commander Abdul Rahim Khan, he also copied. He also made another copy of Ramayana, which is now in the Smithsonian Museum. So these two are very prominent examples which showcases like how Ramayana influenced people of different religious perceptions, people of different backgrounds, and how it created a deep impact because of its because how the whole context aimed at the achievement, the subjugation of the evils and the achievement of the dhamma. So we have this is the more information like how this clear gallery also consists a copy of this Ramayana, and I would say even in the later phase, the Persian Ramayana copy is in the Rampur Library in Uttar Pradesh, and also National Museum has a copy of a Persian Ramayana from a later phase, which is like 18th century. So these are the examples of the painted folio of the Ramayana commissioned by Akbar. So now, as I was saying, like the theme remains the same, but the stylistic connotation changed. So similarly, you can see the first scene where abduction of Sita is happening, and all these folios, they essentially had an inscription. So the inscription here it is written in Persian. Earlier we had seen like the inscriptions were written in Sanskrit, but in the Ramayana particularly the Akbar Ramayana, the title of the story is written, and also few eulogies are written exemplifying the entire episode. So in case of the rendition of Ravan, or if you see like the second Sita is very much influenced, and for example in the second painting we have a depiction of a charbagh. So this is how like a Persian carpet, a charbagh, and these turrets, and also in the first painting the artist is trying to showcase a superstructure inspired from a temple. So how people of different religious backgrounds, they were coexisting, and how they were getting inspired from art. So art and text became like a common thread between people from different contexts. Then this is the Ramayana which I talked about from the National Museum collection. This is from Bikaner, and it also has like 190 painted folios inside. But from a it's not like the style is not at all very similar to the Persian style, but because it was commissioned by a Muslim patron, but in Bikaner it has a mixture of again an indigenous style and also some elements of Mughal style. Then talking about sculpture, so it was not only like when we see the later text, like the first portion I talked about text, how text led to a formation of imagery, but much earlier when we see started representations of in the Gupta period. I have this from the Chol period, and then this is from Ellora. This is a very famous relief on in the Kailashnath temple. Like one side has a big, like this is a big relief on the balustrade of the staircase, which has these episodes of Ramayana, and the other side has a representation of Mahabharata. So, it could be understood that the text was very much popular through oral transmission, and people were making these sculptures inspired from the oral tradition. Like patrons were deeply inspired by the theme of the story, and then in the as we see from the early medieval period, from 10th century, 12th century onwards, we started seeing the tradition of painted folios as well. So oral tradition plays a very important role when we see visualization of any kind of narrative. Then in the high medieval period, we see these miniature paintings. So the Rajasthani school played a very important role in the dissemination of Ramayana. We have representations of Mewar, Malwa. Malwa is mainly from central India, but that time, they were again inspired from the sultanates, and also they were inspired from the Rajasthan school. So the first is from Mewar school. Then in the center we have, at the bottom we have this from the school of Tangra. So Sahibuddin was one of the famous painters from the Mewar school who painted the Ramayana, and his I would say his whole compendium of the Ramayana representation is quite famous when we study from an art historical view. Then coming to the continuity, like how Ramayana is practiced in today's culture, we have the mass tradition, the mass of Majuli from Assam, and the Chau mass dance from Odisha, and also from West Bengal. So this is how the tradition has been taking a new shape, and also the regional variations could be much pertinently seen. Then these are some examples from the National Museum collection only, and we have the scroll painting. So now we can see the transformation, how the iconography remains the same. For example, when we see these paintings, we can easily identify Ram by the green body he has. And each of the color symbolism or the color iconography which we see in the paintings, earlier paintings, should be seen here. So, I would like to conclude my presentation by just showing some of more pictures. So this is an exhibition which we did at National Museum based on Ramayana, and this is the display of the puppetries which we did, and also we had made a whole representation from Kathakali for Theyyam, and at the National Museum exhibition only. So these are the collections which we have, and this is the display. The exhibition was termed as Ram, the beauty of Ram in Indian art and tradition. It happened in 2017, and these are some more pictures of the display. This is the Yakshagana the whole costume. So scholars have already talked about the Ramayana across Southeast Asia. Just to briefly say like how I have been showing like how it has traveled in India. So these are the folios which are seen in Japanese culture, palm leaf folios, and this is how the visual grammar of Ramayana is transformed in the stone reliefs. We see it in Bantisri, we see Priya Khan, in Angkor Wat, in Prambanan, and these are the horn performances and like the performances seen in various parts of Southeast Asia. So this is here I conclude my presentation, and I truly believe like by having by doing a cross-cultural research where we can also expand our vision to see how Ramayana has transformed in not only in Southeast Asia but also in the Far East. We could understand, we could add a new dimension to the storyline and also explore more visual expressions and do an interdisciplinary study. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Abira Bhattacharya. I think she has very clearly brought out that how a religious tradition or a religious story transforms itself into a whole of life or way of life kind of a concept, which kind of depicted the various or multitude of aspects of a society or life in a society. So when the religious part was taken away, as we saw in many other societies, because it had become part of way of life of those societies, the Ramayana still continued to survive and thrive in those societies, even when the religious aspect was taken away. We have seen this in many societies. And that is what actually brought out through art, through dance, through paintings, through calligraphy, through some moral values and things like that. I don't know if we have time for questions. Maybe we are running late, but I leave it to the organizers if they want us to be on stage or they want to go ahead with the next one.
We are running late.
Okay. So with this, thank you very much, Ambassador Chatchai and Deputy Chief of Mission Silalahi for taking your valuable time on a Saturday. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Sir and distinguished panel for your insights. I would request Ambassador Sir to please felicitate our distinguished speakers.
感谢罗国栋大使和各位嘉宾的探讨。现在我们有请罗大使为嘉宾颁奖并表示祝贺。
Ambassador of Kingdom of Thailand, His Excellency Mr. Chatchai Viriyavejakul. Deputy Chief of Mission, Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Parulian Silalahi. We express our special gratitude to Dr. Abira Bhattacharya, who joined us virtually.
特别感谢阿比拉巴特查亚博士以线上的方式参与我们的活动。
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We will now have a